tried to stop the boy, attempting to remind him of the rules, but he didn't even get to finish his sentence before Ghislaine attacked him again. Then Ghislaine mockingly asked if Cawor would also explain the rules of the battlefield. When Cawor tried to object, Ghislaine cut him off, stating that the master's words were not to be doubted. Cawor wanted to call the guy crazy, but once again, he couldn't even finish the thought. The beatdown continued for a while. The others didn't know whether to intervene, so they just stood by. Then Cawor screamed, begging Ghislaine to stop. As if hearing him, Ghislaine yanked Cawor close and lifted the man off the ground. But Ghislaine simply stated that Cawor still hadn't left the circle. Cawor then glared directly at Ghislaine. Then, turning to his people, he commanded them to kill Ghislaine. Without hesitation, they drew their weapons, ready to carry out the order. But just then, they saw Jillian standing before them. He declared in a severe tone that he would kill anyone who dared to lay a hand on Ghislaine. Everyone was shaking with fear, rooted to the spot. Seeing this, Cawor realized just how dire the situation was. Trembling slightly, he turned his head to the side. He met Ghislaine's eyes, a silent dare to keep going. Just as the kid threw another punch, about to connect with Cawor, he flashed an ironic smile. It was as if Cawor had stopped resisting, simply taking the blows. Right then, he recalled how spineless and pathetic the other nobles were. The moment he intimidated those arrogant narcissists, they'd immediately grovel at his feet. And Cawor took immense pleasure in emptying their pockets. That's how he earned his rabid dog reputation, by showing off his strength. But now he couldn't fathom how he'd screwed things up so badly with the rebellious Ghislaine. The ground was slick with blood, and Cawor lay motionless, which deeply worried his people. Ghislaine then wondered if that was enough. Suddenly, he spun around to the nearby mercenaries and ordered them to bring bandages and compresses. He explained that if Cawor didn't get help, he'd die. Hearing that, the mercenaries snapped back to reality, ready to follow Ghislaine's orders. Silently, Ghislaine turned his gaze back to the young man. He assessed the situation with a stern gaze. The mercenaries immediately jumped to obey Ghislaine's command. In the mercenary world, the fist spoke louder than any law, and Ghislaine knew how to assert his authority in the most effective way possible. When Cawor finally came to, Ghislaine handed him a piece of paper. Pointing to the document, he told Cawor to sign it. At first, the mercenary didn't respond, just staring at Ghislaine. Then he simply clicked his tongue in annoyance and signed the document. Once done, he carelessly tossed the paper back to Ghislaine. However, Ghislaine didn't like Cawor's attitude when he saw that. He found it disrespectful. Cawor involuntarily turned his head and asked Ghislaine to take care of them. Ghislaine agreed, gripping Cawor's hand. This instantly spooked the man, who was already battered. But Ghislaine squeezed his hand and declared they were family now. And in his book, that meant they had to act as one. A few days later, the mercenaries gathered on the outskirts of Perdium's lands. The mercs couldn't figure out why they were meeting so early, grumbling that they barely had time to eat. Then, out of nowhere, one of them announced they were being hired by the heir to the Duchy of Perdium. Many started bickering about how they could just fleece the young lord, but there were also those who listened in silence. Suddenly, a mercenary, saying they needed a representative to take care of the employer. Many were surprised to see Gordon. He confirmed they hadn't messed up. Couldn't help but notice how much effort they put into making their lives easier. The mercs shot back that last time. Some idiot made inappropriate demands, so things were going as expected. And Gordon suggested they simply not cross the line of reason. He offered himself as a representative who would subtly intimidate the employer, and the rest would simply have to agree with him. Gordon agreed, thinking that the was doing the talking. They recognized the guy by his clothes and scoffed at him coming alone. Gordon waved his hand at the rest of the men and told them to handle the mood, and he himself would teach the noble a hard lesson. Ghislaine's companions appeared on the horizon, right behind him. The guy had brought other mercs with him. Thanks to their elongated hands, someone recognized